I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
We have such sights to show you.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
I guess I was probably returning videotapes.
I am big. It's the picture that got small.
Who cares?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of the Movie Roulette Tuesday podcast. This is Carl.
This is Rachel.
This is Matt.
So before I get to my pick for our theme and how I dealt with our shakeup, I do have to acknowledge that since our last recording, we have lost a titan of cinema that we were all huge fans of.
Yeah.
Bob Uecker died. I mean, David Lynch died. Bob Uecker was in Major League, but David Lynch died.
I know. Well, you know, he was a big smoker. And he died of emphysema.
I also wonder, because I remember when the fires obviously happened in California, there was a post that said, like, David's been, like, evacuated. Like, we got him out of the fires. But I've gone down a rabbit hole since he's passed, and he always talked about how, like, L.A. was one of his favorite places, and he took such inspiration from L.A. and that area, and I wonder if spiritually, just seeing L.A. destroyed to that level, obviously, you know, having emphysema during a fire event is not a great situation. But I also wonder, it's kind of like when an old couple, when one of them dies and the other one dies right after, just because it's, whether it's grief or whether it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah. What's the point? Well, I wonder if some of that played into it.
It could have been the final domino. You know, who knows?
I think it was emphysema.
Yeah.
That killed him. He was in declining health for a long time.
He couldn't direct anymore because he couldn't stay on his feet.
No. So
I think he was really sick.
I think it was just his time. And it's unfortunate. I think we've discussed how I feel about celebrity deaths before. Like, despite being a big fan of his, even though I hated David Lynch initially.
Did you?
I really did. I mean, the first time I saw something by him.
I thought you liked Eraserhead.
That wasn't the first thing I saw, though.
What was the first thing of his you saw?
Jeez. Oh, I think it was something Andrew let me borrow, and it might have been Mulholland Drive, or it might have been Twin Peaks initially. I was, I forget how old I was, but younger, like early college age at the time. And Andrew let me borrow something because I said that I had never seen anything by him. And everyone where I was working was like big into him. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, you know,
what do I do with this?
I was following it for a while, and then it made a major left turn, and I was like, I couldn't be bothered with it at the time. That wasn't who I was at the time. And then after becoming a big fan and seeing not all of his stuff, but all of his major stuff, and reading, you know, books about him and collecting some of his art books and everything, you know, you come to feel like you know a lot more about that person. But even still, like, it's tragic. I'm very disappointed that I'm never going to see, or the world will never get to see, anything else from him. But, I mean, he was older and had emphysema. Like,
how matter of fact
I can't feel that.
I like how on one end of the spectrum, Carl's got this like poetic attitude, like, oh, he loved LA and the fires must have destroyed his soul. And here's you being like, he had emphysema, he died.
Yeah.
He was old.
I like both of those. I like both of those together. They meld. They're two ends of a spectrum.
That's why we're a good group.
That's right.
We complement each other.
I like it.
I want to believe in what Carl was saying because it is more poetic, but I don't think it's true.
Yeah, no.
And you don't think he didn't want to live in a world without an LA the way he remembered it?
No, I don't think he wanted to die because LA caught on fire for a while. No, I think that smoking and he knew,
Yeah,
he had he was having health problems because of it, and he's like, I'm not quitting.
He did quit.
He did, but
He did.
then,
Too late
yeah.
though. Too little too late when your lungs are like cinders.
Right.
And I like David Lynch. I do not celebrate his entire catalog. There is a lot of David Lynch films that I don't like.
Well, you like a straightforward narrative, or more straightforward than he offers people.
But I like David Lynch as an artist and a person. Like, I like the way he interacted with the media.
He's a unique soul.
I like he was a true artist. And I know
uncompromising.
we said this in our group chat with Andrew, but he was an artist, and I think I don't think we're going to see his like again.
No.
I really don't. And that's the sad part, I think. It's the end of David Lynch.
Yeah.
He's his own
He was a
thing.
figure.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of him being out there being weird in the world, and
I like
bringing positivity. Like everything
Yeah.
you see of him, he just seems just like a interesting, just usually positive person, energy. It's I don't know.
I think he found life to be interesting. He saw all the interesting things that made up life, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, I think that's why I like Twin Peaks so much. He allows you to run the range of emotion.
Yeah, and I think one of his big things was beauty in the mundane.
Yep.
Where, or stopping everything and paying attention. Like, a lot of people complain about his longer, drawn-out scenes in some of his films and in Twin Peaks. And I think that that's part of his charm. He's able to focus on the moment, and it's like you're there. It's not edited for other reasons. It's like, this is my vision. This is what's going on film. This is what I'm putting down.
He was not a compromiser.
No.
Not at all. He's like, if you don't want to make it this way, we just won't do it.
No. Well, everybody that is talked to about him, that worked with him, loved him. Like, because obviously once he passes away,
everybody comes out
with statements, or they get asked in interviews and what have you. And so I've watched Naomi Watts and Patricia Arquette and Laura Dern and Kyle MacLachlan, and all of these people are just like, they love him, and they say things like, when he talks to you, he's present. Like he is genuinely interested in your life and what you're into and what your thoughts are, and he seemed just like a.
Well, yeah, and a lot of their careers were grounded in his work. I mean, they came up with him, and
I think they enjoyed having him as a director, though.
Well, that's what I mean.
And him as a
helped
person
to shape their view of the industry and what they liked and didn't like. And I didn't watch much of anything, but I did read Kyle MacLachlan's farewell.
It's a little like mini eulogy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He said he wouldn't have his life without David Lynch.
Yeah.
He never would have had his career.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch The Art Life, a documentary about David Lynch?
Didn't we watch it?
I watched it. You weren't home.
I watched it with you.
No, I watched it by myself.
Criterion actually, they put it out on disc, but in honor of his passing, they put it out for free, so you don't even need a subscription to the Criterion channel.
But did you watch it?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I
feel like I did see it.
I might have watched it a second time with you.
I think so,
because
and it was
really
interesting.
But yeah,
just a weird dude. He's a weird guy. Grew up in like the Midwest.
Oh yeah,
It's just strange.
there's a really interesting life history.
Yes.
There's a book about him. Oh God, the name escapes me at the moment, but it's kind of the main biography of him, and I read that, and that was really interesting. And like Catching the Big Fish was a book that he put out, which is interesting, and he was very into the Zen meditation. It's something else, but
Transcendental
meditation.
Yeah, he was big into that.
Oh yeah, and he was a big proponent in that whole movement, and would have seminars and other things.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy.
Yeah.
And it's like losing a major artist.
Yeah.
One of one
in the world. Yeah.
One of one. Yeah. He really
because
was.
there are other directors and people that kind of evoke
it's not
certain aspects of his style, but there's no one else can do it the same.
Well,
not even close.
I love that he never would explain. It's like I want you to take from my work what you're going to take from it. I don't want to take that. It's almost like he felt like he would be robbing you if he told you.
Labeling it contains it.
Right.
It limits it.
Yeah.
When you don't have, especially the creator of something, putting a label on it, it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, like a painting.
So you can watch the same thing, the same person can watch the same thing multiple times and take different things away from it without having some, guideline to say this is what it is officially.
Right.
And he didn't want to take your own experience away from you by defining it. It's like, hey, whatever you felt, whatever emotions you had, because I think that was a big thing for him, that he wanted in his filmmaking, was that it generated emotion.
Yeah.
You may not always have understood what was going on or, gotten the message, but all of his films evoked a feeling, different feelings. And I think that was it seems like that was a big thing he was going for.
Yeah, I think that was a major focus of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
In general, the whole thing was never about
Who
solving.
killed Laura Palmer?
Right.
Yeah.
That was the ultimate question that was never supposed to be answered because it was about the fallout of that incident and how it affected everyone around her. Mm-hmm. And it allowed you to explore all these different things. And once you solve that mystery,
it's dead.
You kill the goose that lays the golden eggs.
It's true. I saw a funny cartoon. It looked like a New Yorker cartoon, and it was David Lynch waiting at the pearly gates to get into heaven, and St. Peter's going, all right, but who really did kill Laura Palmer? I thought that was cute.
But in terms of not, explaining anything, the closest he ever came, to my knowledge, was either Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive, where the DVD insert had a list of clues or questions. Do either of you remember that?
No.
I wish I could remember what it was, but it had like a list of 10 things. It was like, pay attention to this, or, who is this? And that was really
Why
odd.
would so-and-so have been there?
for him to do that. But
He was actually, I didn't even realize this because I didn't see the movie, but that Steven Spielberg movie, The Fableman.
I've never heard of that.
It was basically like a movie about Spielberg's childhood.
Okay.
And he cast David Lynch acts in it. I think it's the last thing he acted in.
Oh, really?
And he cast him as John Ford, the director.
Oh, really?
Because when Spielberg was a teenager, he was in the same building as John Ford's office.
Okay.
And he had told somebody he wants to be a filmmaker. And the person said, you want to talk to somebody about filmmaking? Right next door is John Ford's office. Go talk to him. And so Spielberg went
and talked
to John Ford.
That's cool.
And he only had like a 3-minute conversation with him. And I don't want to spoil it because it's pretty entertaining. But David Lynch is in the movie as John Ford.
That's cool.
He's got like the eye patch and he's smoking the cigar.
Oh, my God.
It's actually a really, really good scene.
Or did you guys ever watch his weather reports? He would go on
through
YouTube every day.
Yes.
Do a little like 1 minute or 2 minute
With the
long
number.
thing. Yeah.
You draw the number out.
Just because.
Bizarro. I liked the black and white short that he put out on Netflix.
The monkey?
With the monkey. Tutataban. What was that? What did Jack do?
Yeah.
That was good.
That's
I like
amazing that
True
you like
Love's,
that.
True Love's Flame.
That's
that
like
song, the
peak
musical
David
number.
Lynch. Yes.
I know, but there's a monkey in it.
I know.
Oh,
but
that's
the monkey's
true.
tiny, so he's cute.
Oh.
He's a cute monkey.
Okay.
Oh.
David Lynch can do it. He made that monkey appealing.
Wow.
I know.
So, anyway, I didn't want to take a whole
Well,
lot
I
of time,
think
but I
that
felt like
we
we should
needed to
acknowledge it.
acknowledge
Certainly
it
worth mentioning,
because
yeah.
I felt bad about it.
Just like I said, one of my big reasons I get sad when somebody dies is that you'll never get a new song from them or a new movie from them. And I know that David Lynch was never going to direct again. But I liked knowing that he was out there in the world being weird. And,
Yeah. Being him.
Yeah.
One of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too
it
bad.
was a bummer.
R.I.P. David Lynch.
Okay. So, my pick this week, obviously the theme was the unseen.
Unseen.
And my shakeup was it had to be silent or mostly silent.
Mostly dead. Good luck, buddy. You did it, though.
So I did. I
did.
So I did have some thoughts right off the bat when I got that shakeup. My first thought was Nosferatu, the original.
It's a great film.
Which I think would have fit.
It totally would
He
have.
was sort of an unseen threat, and
Yep.
that's a silent movie.
Yep.
And we had just talked about it.
Yeah.
Because you guys had seen the new
Eggers. Yeah.
one. But I said, you know what? That's low-hanging fruit.
Wow.
So I poked around a bit.
Okay.
And the film that I came up with for this theme is The Phantom Carriage. This is from 1921.
It's a very good year.
So this I mean, I'm not going to say this might be. I'm pretty sure this is the oldest movie we've ever watched for Movie Roulette Tuesday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think so. I think this.
Pre-podcast or post-podcast.
I think so.
Now, this is a Swedish movie, so for any of our listeners from Sweden, I apologize in advance for the names I am most certainly going to butcher. But
It's going to be blah blah son.
Yeah, so they don't do that. I don't think they do the son or dotir
In
thing
Sweden?
In Sweden.
Oh.
At least not
I
these names.
stand corrected then.
So this film was directed by and starring Victor Sjöström.
Okay.
Who is actually referred to as the father of Swedish cinema.
Whoa.
So when you look up Swedish cinema, he was one of two directors that were actually doing films in the early 20s.
Okay.
Now, the synopsis for this... Now, I actually have this Criterion put this out on disc, but if you wanted to watch along, it's a movie from 1921. YouTube, you can go to YouTube, and it's all over the place. So the description here, the last person to die on New Year's Eve before the clock strikes 12 is doomed to take the reins of death's chariot and work tirelessly collecting fresh souls for the next year. So says the legend that drives the Phantom Carriage, directed by the father of Swedish cinema, Victor Sjöström. The story, based on a novel by Nobel Prize winner Selma Lagerlöf, concerns an alcoholic, abusive ne'er-do-well, played by Sjöström himself, who is shown the error of his ways, and the pure of heart Salvation Army sister who believes in his redemption. This extraordinarily rich and innovative silent classic, which inspired Ingmar Bergman to make movies, is a Dickensian ghost story and a deeply moving morality tale, as well as a showcase for groundbreaking special effects.
I love everything about that.
Wow.
So we'll see how special the effects were in 1921. Most of the effects are double exposures and things like that, just because they didn't have.
Some of those very early films had pretty good
Like on
special
Turner
effects.
Classic on Max, they have a lot of those early cinema things where, they're shorts, like 5-10 minutes long, but they have actually really interesting special effects for the time. It's all film manipulation and, like you said, overlays and
Like
double
the old-
exposures. And
Like the
things.
Georges Méliès stuff
Yes,
with the
that's
rocket
exactly
going
what
in the
it
moon's
is.
face
Yeah,
and
yeah.
going in and him hand coloring the frames to actually give it color.
Give it some color. Yeah.
So I figured it sounds like it fits the theme of the unseen.
I think it
You've got a
does.
phantom carriage. picking
Phantom,
up the souls of
unseen.
people.
Yeah.
And it is a silent film from 1921.
Then you have ticked all the boxes.
So it is based on a novel, as the description said. The novel was called Thy Soul Shall Bear Witness.
Wow.
And there's an exclamation point at the end.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's why I added the little oomph to it.
Witness.
By Swedish author Selma Lagerlöf.
Okay.
As that description mentioned, it was a big influence on Ingmar Bergman.
Wow.
He so much so that he cast Sjöström in one of his own movies, Wild Strawberries.
I never saw that one.
No, me neither.
I think that's one
another
of the Bergman movies I did not see.
Criterion release, right?
They all are. All of Bergman.
Yeah,
Well, he
He
released
did
that
that
box.
box
They
set.
released
Yeah.
a box with all of them. Yeah. And Bergman has said that he first saw this movie at age 15, and he watches it at least once a year.
Oh. It's an annual experience for him?
Yep.
Do you think he watches it on New Year's Eve?
Oh, maybe.
That would be kind of fun.
So are there any movies that you guys watch on an annual basis?
Yes.
I mean, Christmas movies. There's
Always
certain
Christmas
movies.
movies.
Yeah, all right, but let's say ones that aren't seasonal.
No.
No. There has to be something associated with it.
Like
Like
there-
there.
I was going to say, like, there are movies, if I see them on television, like if I'm flipping around, I'll keep it on. It's
pretty much
But
what I
I don't, like,
Seek
go
it out.
pull this movie off
Yeah.
my shelf the same time every year and
Yeah.
watch it.
Be like, it's been 365 days. I really should see this again.
Yeah, but I've heard other people do that where it's like, oh, it's our annual like Lord of the Rings trilogy viewing or something like that, or people watch Star Wars every year.
Okay. I mean, I
Something
get
like that.
why.
I don't have that either,
But we don't. It's only Christmas.
yeah.
And even that will vary slightly. Like, I won't watch every.
Yeah.
I have to watch at least one version of A Christmas Carol. Doesn't matter which one. I have to watch one.
Yeah.
That's very important to me. And then we always watch Christmas Vacation.
Right. Well,
Every year.
And it's funny, like we used to always watch A Christmas Story, but that kind of fell off
Yeah.
the list just because
Yeah.
because.
But if it's not Christmas
Overexposure.
related, like I like The Sound of Music, but I like to watch that at Christmas time, but not every year.
My Nana used to watch Gone with the Wind once a year.
I love Gone with the Wind.
All 10 hours of it. Or
It's
however
4
long it
hours.
is.
It's not even that bad. It's like a 4-hour movie.
It's a haul. I mean, it is a long story, but it is good.
It's epic.
I remember when we saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
And they had the intermission and everything.
Yeah, it
That
was,
pretty
cool. I liked that. Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Some other fun trivia about this movie. Charlie Chaplin stated that this was the best film ever made.
whoa, when did he say that?
I
Sometime
don't
while
have a
he was
year.
alive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious. Was it in like the 20s or the 50s? You know, more films.
sure.
I'm just curious. Okay. It's all right.
It should have been heavily censored due to its supernatural content in accordance with the censorship guidelines at the time, but the Board of Censors decided to leave the film intact rather than risk a dispute with the author. I guess Selma Lagerlöf was very well regarded as an author in
She
Sweden
didn't want anyone messing
at
with
the
her.
time.
Sorry.
He actually, the director, went to her house and he performed the entire screenplay
Really?
in front of her.
That's cool.
And then at that point, he collapsed on a couch in exhaustion.
Wow.
And she looked at him for a long time and then asked if he would care for a drink.
Sounds
And then he took that as her seal of approval.
very Scandinavian.
And to prepare for his role in the movie, the director disguised himself as a poor man and spent time in the slums of Stockholm.
Oh.
To get in the character of being
Went undercover.
a ne'er-do-well.
He was a method actor.
Yes. Method director.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
That is interesting. I love it.
So this is obviously very sweet. This is all Swedish.
All
Directed
100%.
by the father of Swedish cinema, based on a novel from a celebrated Swedish author at the time. So what I thought I would do, because obviously we like to come up with some discussion points for our episodes, is I decided to come up with a list of things from Sweden
Yeah.
that we would be familiar with.
Yes.
And talk about. Let's see if we can see what Swedish exports we're fond of.
Okay. All right.
Or our thoughts
Okay.
on these things from Sweden.
Are we rating them?
Matt doesn't rate things, so I'm not going to do that.
That's not to the exclusion of others.
So
But I'm not
gonna-
changing my stance.
Nor should you.
Stick by your principles.
So I'm going to throw out some Swedish things.
Okay,
And
and
we'll
we'll
get
just
your
react.
thoughts on it. We'll
We'll
just
react.
react. Do you
All right.
like them? Do you not like them?
Swedish reaction. Yeah.
Do you have
yeah.
any association with them?
How do you say no in Swedish?
I don't speak Swedish.
Okay. Nobody knows.
No,
Probably no.
No, nine.
No.
That's German.
that's German.
Nine, nay.
Okay.
I don't know.
First on the list.
Yeah.
ABBA.
I like ABBA.
You like ABBA?
I like ABBA. Dancing Queen.
They're a band.
Fernando. Oh man. Move
Fernando's
on
a
because
jam.
I will get Fernando stuck in my head.
Fernando's a
It's
jam.
bad.
Have you seen Mamma Mia?
No.
The movies?
That seems weird to me.
So I have a brief anecdote related to ABBA and racing. oddly.
Oh.
In the last race that I did, which was in New Hampshire, one of the teams came over from England to race, and the car that they brought, I think it was called a Rover, which is just kind of a piece of shit, daily commuter type car. But that particular Rover that they had belonged to the ex-drummer of ABBA,
Wow.
who was also a Formula One race car driver
Get out of town.
at the time. So, but this was his daily driver, and they acquired the car and brought it over. And
Did they blast
it was actually
ABBA?
pretty cool. No.
How'd they do?
They did all right. They won an award. I forget, because there are a bunch of different awards that they give out at the end of the race, but they did end up winning an award for them bringing this car over on a container ship to New Jersey and then
Wow.
getting it to New Hampshire to race.
For this lemon relation.
Yeah,
That is commitment
and it
right
was
there.
a right-hand drive vehicle and stuff. So, you would
Fun.
see it on the track as you were racing. It was pretty cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Right. But not a fan of ABBA's music then, Matt.
I mean, whatever. I'll listen to it, but I would never
Just put it on.
be in any situation where I'm like, oh yeah, I got to put on that ABBA song. No, never, never, ever.
Oh, you know that song, Super Trooper?
No.
No? Okay.
All right. Next Swedish thing.
Go.
IKEA.
Oh, everybody loves IKEA.
Doesn't love it. No.
Come on.
The one issue I take with IKEA fans, okay, let's all agree, IKEA furniture is adequate.
It's
Fine.
okay.
Better than Walmart and Target.
That's right.
It's not like
It's not like
Amish
you're
made.
right.
Yeah.
No, I mean it serves a purpose. It's like I need a thing to fit in this space. You're going
I
to find
just-
it at IKEA.
I need a bookshelf.
The
Yeah.
instructions, not always great. No words, just pictures.
Yeah.
It's international.
All right, and I've put together some pretty difficult things from IKEA.
Yes, you
we have a
have.
whole custom closet
Yes.
thing.
That was challenging.
And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever put together. Our daughter's bed, which is like a trundle bed.
We do have a lot of furniture from IKEA.
Well, it works well for the kids, or
Yeah.
like you said, like our,
Yeah.
our bookshelf was great from IKEA.
And it's solid.
So anyway,
That bookshelf's
I'm not
solid.
critiquing the furniture, but I am critiquing the people that claim that they love to go to IKEA to go to the cafeteria and eat the food there. I don't get it. Swedish meatballs are fine.
That was
bet
on
they're
my
on the
list to
list.
talk about
Oh,
Swedish
well,
meatballs.
we'll go right into
so we
that.
can talk about
but
those.
some people go to IKEA specifically to eat the meatballs.
Like just for lunch?
They do, and
interesting.
that I don't understand.
No.
Like I've eaten lunch there because
You're shopping there.
you're shopping
Yeah.
and it's not close, so you're there for a while.
It's kind of a novelty.
and
It's
then
like,
they
let's
have
go to the
food, and
IKEA.
sometimes they have neat little things. But people are like, "Oh, the food at IKEA is great." I take issue with that. You have shitty taste in food.
I don't agree, yeah.
What do you think of Swedish meatballs?
I don't like them.
outside of IKEA.
They're fine. I'll eat them.
You will?
Yeah.
I don't like them.
What's your problem with
You
it?
don't like them?
Just the taste, the sauce?
There's something about, I bet if you know what? Let me retract. When I was a kid, I didn't like them because I didn't trust them. Because growing up, meatballs were in sauce. Like you had a
Like a
meatball
red sauce.
in a red sauce. That was the meatball you ate. A meatball sandwich with pasta, whatever. So Swedish meatballs, when I was a child, seemed like some kind of freak abomination.
Like sacrilege.
Yeah.
How could you have these
So
meatballs?
I was like, I don't want this.
But you can fit 3 of them in one of those little mini rolls.
And you know
that's
what?
Little meatball sliders?
Nice thing.
I
yeah.
have never eaten them. I've never even really had the opportunity. Like I've never made them or anything. I bet you if I made them or I had them, I'd probably like them.
Maybe that's a future MRT
I feel like now I
dinner
have
choice.
to do it. I
We
do,
gotta
don't
totally
I?
do it now.
Swedish meatballs
You
because it's
set
like
yourself up. Get some hoagie rolls.
it's like a cream sauce.
Yeah, it's like a white
like
sauce.
a brown
Like
cream.
Yeah, it's like a weird gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is like
but
gravy, yeah.
And you serve it over egg noodles.
You can.
We'll do it. We'll have a Swedish meatball
Yeah,
night.
we'll get an Allen wrench and a screwdriver and
Yep.
some
And
flat
some-
pack stuff and put it together.
Put it
and
together
eat some
and eat
things
Swedish
and
meatballs.
Swear and break
I
fiberboard
do like.
parts.
I don't know if this is on your list, but since we're talking about food, I love lingonberry jam.
Oh yeah.
I love lingonberry. That's Swedish. You
One of the
can buy
guys
that at
I was
IKEA.
introduced to lingonberry jam by one of the guys I used to dive with.
Mm-hmm.
His boat. He'd take us out. His wife would make us all sandwiches and put it in a cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be turkey and lingonberry sandwiches. And that was the first time I had it. And I was like, we have to get some of this.
Turkey, cheese, lettuce. You know, if you want tomato, fine. I wouldn't do it in lingonberry. Turkey, cheese, lettuce, mayo, and lingonberry
Yeah.
on like thick white bread.
And bacon.
Whoa, bacon.
Yeah,
Did she put bacon on it?
sometimes.
Wow, you're lucky.
Putting together furniture is probably my least favorite thing to do. Like, my wife knows if I'm putting together furniture,
Stay away
from me.
Yeah.
Don't ask if I need help.
Oh.
You're going to hear things.
Words are going to come out of my mouth.
Because my entertainment center we got from IKEA.
Yeah.
And that's that one because they didn't they gave me dowels that were the wrong size. Like the dowels, so I had to like cut dowels to get them to fit because the ones they gave me were too long. I was losing my ever loving mind. I was ready to throw that thing out the window.
And if you fuck it up, like if you put one piece in
right, because
backwards,
you're gluing you're gluing the stuff as you're putting it together.
Yeah, our daughter's desk, I had an experience with that. It had this weird like roll-out drawer thing, and it was pretty cool. But putting it together, and I do enjoy putting together IKEA furniture. It's like a puzzle for me. I like that challenge. But
our son likes it too.
I had to like go back 30 steps and disassemble this thing.
Oh my God, it was awful.
Put it back together because in one of the diagrams it looked like the board was one way when it was really the other way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I like going to IKEA. I love going to IKEA. I wish it was closer.
You know what? If no one else was there, it'd be fantastic.
Well, I bet if we went at a different time, because we always go on the weekend.
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm snooping in somebody's house.
I love it.
It's like, ooh, I'm going to go into this room now.
But
then
they
you go
have cool
downstairs
ideas.
into the big Indiana Jones box
I
archive
love that place too.
room.
You've got your pad and pencil. You're like, where's G54?
Yeah. Yep. Love it.
Just take pictures of everything.
I think it's awesome.
All right, so IKEA.
Yeah, high up on the
high
list.
rating.
High.
All right, we're gonna take a detour into the automotive realm.
Yes.
So we've got Saabs and Volvos.
Saab.
Now I've never known anybody that's owned either, and I've never.
Oh, yes, you do.
Rachel's dad is a
My dad
huge Saab fan.
is a Saab aficionado. I think before I was born, the only car he's always owned a Saab.
Okay.
Always. Loves them. I love the sound of a Saab engine. Love it. They were in... Why are you making a face?
What about a Saab engine?
It just has a very distinct sound. It reminds me of my dad. I just like the sound of that engine.
Okay.
Just
He still
idling.
drives them to this day?
He has one. He has like a convertible now, so he drives it in the summer, and then he has a truck.
Okay.
But he is a Saab
snob?
Acolyte. Like, he loves Saabs. He's a Saab snob.
Saab snob?
He's just committed. He's made the commitment. He'll never leave.
He's like Apple people.
But they don't make them anymore. They don't make Saabs
They don't make new
anymore.
Saabs?
No.
Oh.
No. Saab got bought out a while back, I think by Ford, and then they ceased production.
Yeah, there wasn't a demand for it anymore, I guess.
Volvo's still a thing?
Volvo's still going
very
strong. I
much so.
hate Volvos. I think, and my sister owned a Volvo.
Oh.
A Volvo station wagon, and it was awesome. I don't like the design direction that Volvo has taken. I think
that's
they should,
an industry thing.
Yeah, I know. I think they should go back to their roots, but they're great cars. So I think both Saabs and Volvos, like, I wouldn't turn my
They
nose
have
up
merit.
at. Yeah.
Like the XC90, I think is a nice vehicle.
I don't like the way the new ones look, though.
Yeah.
I like the older ones better.
But Saabs, yeah, they were neat cars.
They were cool.
A lot of the ones from the 70s were very cool, unique designs. There were 3 or 4 Saabs in the last race I did, all different eras
That's awesome.
of Saab. It was really cool.
Saab 900. My dad had.
Born from jets. That was their thing, and they had the ignition in the center console.
Yeah, which was always cool. That's how we would always start the car. You'd put the key right in the middle.
Yep.
It's just cool.
They had difficult clutches a lot of times. They caught real high.
When I was learning how to drive, I learned how to drive sort of a manual transmission in my dad's car, and it was a bitch.
Yep.
I could never get it. He's like, it is tricky. And the clutches are super high. You have to like pull way off. And then if you miss that little window, the car's like, no! And it's over.
Yep.
They're finicky, but they're cool cars.
All right.
Okay.
Swedish fish.
I don't
like Swedish
I don't like them.
I like Swedish fish.
I don't like them. They're just like, I don't know.
What's the?
They don't have enough flavor.
What are the Trader Joe's equivalent, like Swedish swimmers or something like that?
I think so. Something like that.
they're not
Yeah.
infringing.
That's right. The copyright is not being.
Are they comparable?
I don't know.
They're not the same. I mean, Swedish fish, like, I don't love them. They are kind of gross, but I do enjoy eating them, if that makes any sense.
Is it the texture of them?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, there's a distinct texture. The taste is odd. And sometimes if you get the bigger ones, I think the smaller ones are better. The bigger ones are
Oh, the ones that are like an inch.
Yeah.
inch and a half.
That's like a, choke
Like a
hazard.
chore.
But
Do they really come from Sweden?
It's a
fish?
Swedish candy company that makes
Okay.
them.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I do enjoy Swedish fish.
Okay.
We mentioned the author of the book that this movie is based on was Nobel Prize winning. The Nobel Prize is from Sweden.
That's great.
So do you...
Is it Alfred Nobel? Albert Nobel? Begins with an A.
I don't remember.
It's all right.
So when you see somebody as Nobel Prize winning, does that change your opinion? Does that
Not anymore.
do you hold
No.
value in that?
No.
I think like most things, the value of
Those awards
have
diminish.
diminished
Because it's
greatly over time.
I think those awards, just like other major awards, they become politicized. They become messages, and so it diminishes the actual meaning, like a Nobel Prize in physics, or because there's tons of different Nobel prizes.
Yeah, there's like 6 different
Categories. I think isn't poetry one of them?
Literature.
Nobel laureate.
yeah,
Maybe it's
Nobel
literature.
laureate.
And then there's like economics. I don't know. But no, I don't. I mean, good for them. That's nice.
I mean, it's certainly not something I would turn my nose up at. That
No.
is quite the achievement, but it doesn't always indicate greatness. Sometimes it's indicative of conformity and alignment
Yeah,
with other
yeah.
views.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think just like anything, you have to be selective and question.
True.
Fair. Swedish Chef.
Bork, bork, bork. Love the Swedish chef.
Yes, who doesn't?
He has real hands. It's scary.
Do you guys have a favorite Muppet?
No.
I love all the Muppets. I loved the Muppet Show. I loved it. I was always partial to Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Yeah,
I
they're
really
cool.
love them. I love all of them. Janice, Animal, Dr. Teeth, Floyd.
Yep.
Zoot, I think was the...
Zoot.
Gonzo.
Gonzo wasn't really in that.
In what? The
Dr.
Muppets?
Teeth.
No, Dr. Teeth.
Dr.
the
Teeth.
actual
I thought you were
Electric
like
Mayhem.
tacking him
Yeah.
on.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
no.
no.
Although
Eagle,
he-
Sam Eagle.
Sam the Eagle.
Who was a really scary Muppet?
Sweetums?
No, he was just big.
The green guy that blew things up?
No,
The scary Muppet. I need more.
I think he was kind of like a bird, but he had sharp, crazy teeth. Blue-ish.
Oh my God. His name. It's right there. It's right there.
I can see it in my head, but I can't
Yep.
describe it better than that.
Let me think about it. I'll get back to
Well,
you.
wasn't there New Zealand? Like he was the one that would blow things up.
Oh, with the bomb?
Yeah.
No, it's not who he's talking about.
No,
though,
I
but,
know.
is that his name? I didn't know his
New
name.
Zealand was the
New
guy
Zealand.
that would blow stuff up.
Uncle Deadly. That
Uncle-
was
yeah.
the guy.
Oh, yeah, Kayla
That
would
was
Didn't he
know
have
that.
like
guy.
he had like the whiskers?
Yeah. He did. He did
Or a
have
mustache
whiskers.
or
No,
something.
he had like whiskers.
I'm gonna have to
and
look
he
it
had
up now.
teeth. And he was blue. That was Uncle Deadly.
Okay.
Yes. He was scary when I was little.
He was like one of the only villain Muppets.
Yeah. All the other Muppets were pretty chill.
Yeah.
But hey, Swedish Chef is great.
Swedish Chef rules.
Yeah.
I wonder what they thought of it. Like when the Swedish Chef first came out, I wonder what the people of Sweden thought
I
of
bet
him.
they thought it was funny. The people had more of a sense of humor
Yes.
than they do now.
Uncle Deadly.
Uncle Deadly, see?
Yep. Very nice.
I had to dig way into the annals of my mind for that one.
So we talked about Cars, which
Yeah.
which typically will fall in Matt's
Subs
wheelhouse.
and all those, yeah.
I'm an equal opportunity host, so
Thank you.
Rachel, we've got 2 notable actresses
Yes.
from Sweden. We have Ingrid Bergman
Love Ingrid Bergman.
and Greta Garbo.
I love Greta Garbo.
Do you have-
Ingrid Bergman is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's pretty awesome. She's been in so many. I mean, her most famous film is Casablanca, but she's been in so many other ones that I can't think of right now off the top of my head, but that I've seen her in. But I enjoy her. She seems nice. You know,
Yeah.
she's a nice lady.
Yeah. Spotify.
Is Swedish?
Yeah,
didn't know that.
Swedish
owned?
company initially.
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
I love Spotify.
I do too. I can understand why, if you're an artist, you might not love Spotify. There's a lot of hubbub about compensation as artists from Spotify or just streaming services in general.
Well, as a user.
And there's a lot of
I love it.
manipulation that goes on.
It changed how people fundamentally consume music.
Yeah.
Yep, it does. And I listen to an extraordinary amount of music every day, all year. Like my Spotify rap has,
It's always ridiculous.
tens of thousands of minutes. Listen, but part of me, and I think I've mentioned this before, does miss the days of like crate digging and looking through stuff to find an album. Like it meant something. I remember traveling to different states to go to certain record stores to find something.
Whenever I would travel, like go on vacation somewhere, I'd be like, I need to find a record store.
Right.
I want to see what they have.
Yep.
Do you think you'd still do that now? If Spotify didn't exist, though?
That's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess.
My interest would probably wane, or have waned from my peak.
Yeah.
But if there was no other way to access that music,
Then you would, yeah.
However, I mean, I can find so many things on Spotify, and the stuff I can't find, I still do buy, but it's rare, rare for me to do that. And I love that it exists, but there is a sense, and I know Carl feels this with physical media in general, of it's temporary, right? Things come and go on Spotify, or maybe you have a whole artist catalog and then you go back one day and only 1 or 2 albums are available because some deal fell through with some label or something. So, yeah, I mean, certain bands or certain albums, it's like you still want to own that, but it does open the door for tremendous amounts of exploration,
exposure to other things,
different things. You discover so many things. I listen to so many different bands that I never would have gotten the chance to, or would have had to spend a fortune, risking every time. Is this any good? And there's an immediacy to it, but I think it does cater to the whole short attention span, social media thing, especially when you look at the top artists and songs that are on there. The way that people view and consume music has changed dramatically over the years.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs.
It's a tool.
Yeah. Okay. This was added
yes,
per request. I had no idea what this was, but the red Dala horse.
The Dala horse, the little red Swedish Dala horse. They're so cute. It's in a lot of Swedish art. I don't know what it means, if it's like a welcoming thing or it means home or whatever, but I love that motif.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't?
No.
I'll show you.
I know I've seen it before,
You
but
have.
It's not something that comes to mind.
It's a little red horse, usually with like a little saddle on it.
There's some sort of sash or
Yeah, and it can come in all different colors and here.
But that's like a Swedish iconic thing.
It's a Swedish thing. It's this guy. See? The Dala horse.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen that a bunch of times.
I would have think that'd come from like Mexico.
No. Swedish.
Sweden.
It's Swedish, and I love them. If I was Swedish, I would collect them.
Okay.
But
all right.
Yeah, I like those. Look that up. Dala.
Yep.
Dala horse. I don't know what it means though.
And then the last one here. We're going to objectify the Swedes a bit here.
Wow.
Swedish models / bikini.
The Swedish bikini team.
That's your contribution to this.
It is.
The Swedish, I mean, they are an attractive people.
Yeah.
They are. They're handsome people.
Yep. I mean, period. The Swedish bikini team was like a thing growing up. I remember they'd always be in...
Where were they?
Like on shows. It's like,
it's the Swedish bikini
then
team.
featuring the Swedish bikini team. Or like some football game they'd show up. Or, they're like the Blue Angels, but with boobs. They just appear at events.
Were
or
they all
things.
blonde?
Yes, absolutely.
Were they?
They were
I
all
didn't know if you could have like a brunette Swedish bikini team member.
Well, I don't know, maybe over the time.
Yeah.
But that's not what comes to mind. You think of tall, athletic, buxom, blonde, Swedish ladies in bikinis.
There you go.
I would love to visit that area of the
The
world.
Swedish bikini team
Not for
area?
that, but
Oh,
just
okay.
in general.
Oh,
like,
you wouldn't object to running into them.
no, I mean, if they happened to be there while I was there,
I wouldn't turn away.
no, I'd say hi.
It's too cold to wear bikinis in Sweden.
Not indoors.
Okay.
Then come here.
It's cold here, too.
Right now.
yeah. Come in the summer.
Go to the
It's
south.
much nicer.
I'd love to go to Sweden. I'd like to go to Scandinavia. The closest we've come is Iceland, which has, roots in Norway and other
Just like a
parts
lot of other
Scandinavia.
places, I would have liked to have visited Sweden like 20 years ago,
Yeah, I know.
or even 10 years ago.
But I would go to, I don't know that I'd go to the cities, but I'd like to go to the countryside. I bet it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially, go real north, too, like that. I think Lapland is in Finland, but that, again, still that north of the Arctic Circle where you can see the aurora and,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, going to Nordic countries.
Plus, what you didn't have on there was other Swedish food. Swedish food besides meatballs is pretty good.
Yeah.
I've made Swedish apple cake. There's all kinds of Swedish sweetbread, wicked good. They use a lot of cardamom and cinnamon spices. It's delicious.
Yeah, I can't think of anything besides meatballs that's savory and not, dessert oriented.
I don't know. I'm sure there's tons of stuff. I just don't know.
Yeah, that list came off the top of my head.
A lot of
That
fish, I imagine.
I would assume good
think
seafood,
some, yeah.
fresh.
I mean, but only the southern part of Sweden is, I think it's the Baltic Sea. I'd have to look at a map. I don't know. Norway is really has more water than Sweden. But I don't know.
There are a lot of Swedish death metal bands. Not as many as Norwegian black metal.
What's up with that?
It's cold
the deal?
there.
What else?
It's
They're bored.
depressing.
Angry?
There's a lot of anger. They're,
Okay.
Viking roots.
All right.
Sort
Just
of.
a lot of berserker rage or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Burzum.
All
right.
I respect that.
So that's our little tour of Swedish things.
Guess what we didn't have for dinner? We did not have anything Swedish
No.
for dinner.
No, we had a decidedly, it was Mexican.
We went south of the border.
We went south of the border.
Yep.
And what were those things called?
I don't know. One of the girls I work with is Mexican, and she's a really good cook. And she made me, I want to say, I forget. It sounded like sopas, but it's not. Torrin said that's soap. So it's not that.
We did not eat soap.
We didn't eat soap. But they were like corn cakes that you heat up. They were really
Almost
good.
like tortilla English muffins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you put,
Kind of.
we put carnitas on them and
Like tortilla pancakes.
They were good. I'll ask her. I'll get back to you.
They're
But they were
delicious.
delicious. I will.
And what was that? What
happily
was that
tell her.
cheese that I
Tortilla
enjoyed?
cheese. It's like Mexican Parmesan. It's kind of like a hard cheese that crumbles, but it's really good.
good.
Very
It's good.
flavorful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like that.
Yeah, very tasty.
We have plenty of dessert. Not Mexican, but just regular.
Can't win 'em
American.
all.
Nope. So yeah,
So we are going to watch the Phantom Carriage.
I'm excited. Are we going to watch it? Which soundtrack are we using? You said there's two different ones.
So the Criterion release of this on YouTube, I don't know what you're going to get. I do know this is on YouTube, but obviously with a silent movie,
Yeah.
they would be accompanied by music. A lot of times the music would be played live in the theater.
Yeah.
Like someone would be on a
Piano.
or organ or what have you. So this particular release from Criterion has two scores, one by Swedish composer Matti Bai and the other by the experimental duo KTL.
Oh.
I was leaning toward the Swedish composer one just because I feel like that would be closer to the original intent of the score.
Yeah.
I would like that.
So that's the one I was going to
Okay.
choose.
I'm cool. It's your pick, so you get to choose.
But we're watching a silent movie, you guys.
Be quiet then. You have to be quiet. So we
Silent.
can't hear the dialogue.
When I initially got that shakeup, though, I was like, "Oh, come on!" But,
Come on.
But then I thought, you know what? These shakeups might make this season
They're going to
interesting
make that.
because
They're shaking it up.
I don't know that we ever would have picked a silent movie
Probably
had
not.
one of us not gotten this. So.
I think silent. I've seen my share of silent movies, and they're worth it. I really think they are. It's obviously it's annoying because there's no dialogue. Sometimes there's subtitle cards in between the scenes, but I don't know. It was a different time. It gives you a little peek into that time period. Sometimes they can be really racy, which is fun, or scary, or
I remember
I don't know.
at Bryant when I was in college, they had a movie theater on campus, and we watched Broken Blossoms.
Is that Japanese?
No.
No.
It's Lillian Gish.
Oh, okay.
And it was cool, like seeing a silent movie on a movie on a movie screen.
Yeah,
it's like, this is neat.
The way it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I think they're good. So.
Yeah. Do you think that it's how do I want to say this? You would never necessarily put a silent film up against a more modern classic.
I don't think you.
You know what I mean? Like
can.
They're a.
It's like apples and oranges.
I can't think of the word I want to use, and it's not anything complicated, but it's more of a like unique experience, I guess, to watch a silent film than it is because it's the way that the story is told because of the medium is inseparable from the content, whereas in later movies, talkies,
you had so much more flexibility.
Yeah.
And it was more like being somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where a silent film, it was just. You're right. It was
like you can't really necessarily immerse yourself as much, I don't think, in a silent film as you can in a film with actual dialogue.
Yeah, silent film, it was such a short period of time, too, between when film happened and then when sound was added, audio was added. So it's just this very special snapshot in film history. But I think that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's where modern cinema started. It's where it came from. So you can see the evolution.
I would, and I'm really looking forward to that with this film. Is if Ingmar Bergman was inspired, you said Stanley Kubrick. Was
that's
inspired.
the other thing I need to mention. Stanley Kubrick was a huge fan of this movie.
Okay.
To the point that there's a scene in this movie that he completely pilfered.
For one of his films?
For one of his films.
All right,
I'm not going to tell you which film, but as we watch, I want to see if you guys can pick out the scene from this movie that Stanley Kubrick heavily borrowed
I'm going to keep my eye out for a monolith.
And monkeys?
And monkeys.
I don't think so. I can't let you do that.
A robot. I was going to say a robot.
Yeah.
Not letting people.
In space.
Yeah.
All right.
Danny Torrance is going to be in there somewhere.
Danny is in here as a Torrance.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're not going to listen to this movie. We're going to watch it.
Well, let's watch
Literally
it with our
watch
eyeballs.
it.
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go. Right. Silently.
Yes. And we are back from our inaugural silent film viewing.
Our carriage ride of doom.
Of the Phantom Carriage. What did you guys think?
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It was interesting. I mean, it felt a little long for some reason. I don't know why, but I expected it. Like, this was feature length.
Yeah.
You know, like a modern day feature length, normal.
It's 106 minutes.
Film. Yeah. Right, which seems long to me for that era of silent film. Usually, maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought that they were shorter.
I don't know.
Like
I really don't know.
Like an hour long, but
I'm not sure.
And it was long, not in a bad way at all. And we'll get into all those details, but yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons.
I thought it was spooky. Definitely had spooky vibes. And I thought it was really well done. I thought it was well acted. The story was good and engaging. And even though you didn't have dialogue and you only had, intermittent subtitles, title cards, we knew what was going on.
Yeah. You told the gist of the story. I mean, it's, this morality. Well, whatever.
Yeah, we'll go through it. But, the note on the dialogue, and this might just be my inexperience with silent films. I have not seen very many of them. But it's the characters are speaking to each other throughout the movie, but you only get dialogue cards at certain points. So it's like they they chose is like, what dialogue is critical for people to know what's going on versus what can be inferred by the context or
But there was still a script, obviously. Like someone wrote down dialogue for these characters to have so that it would be
you need to
enough
talk to
evoke
each
that
other.
emotion,
You
right.
can't just silently act out. That would be so awkward and weird.
Right, but you because of the limitations of the technology at the time, you can't capture it. You can't capture the sound with the picture. So you have this script that is not consumed by anyone other than the actors.
It's not heard unless you're a good lip reader.
I wonder if they marked on the script like which lines of dialogue would be displayed versus which ones.
I think they had.
weren't.
I'm guessing. I bet they had a storyboard, and I bet in that storyboard they had the cards, the dialogue cards. Like, okay, at this point, this is going to be when we display the dialogue. And then I think they also, and they pulled that from whatever script they had, screenplay, teleplay, whatever. I think that's how they would have done it.
Well, it also probably would have been like if they had dialogue cards for every line of dialogue.
Well, no,
it would just be too cumbersome.
That's not how it works.
Interruptive. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. But you watch the scenes, you get a sense of what they're saying, and you kind of infer. And you can lip read. I mean, in this case, if you know Swedish, but even in English or whatever languages, it's still like you're just getting the essence. You're an observer. You can kind of infer what they're saying to each other, and then the cards are what move that scene along through the through the storyboards, right? I don't know.
It's kind of cool because the movie's not spelling anything out for you through dialogue. You're kind of inferring people's emotions, actions, motivations.
Yeah.
The movie does have a story and it tells it to you, but.
And it was interesting in this film compared to other silent films that I've seen. The acting felt very natural as opposed to like over emoting to kind of make up for the fact that you don't have sound dialogue, and I don't know, maybe it's because of the silent films that I've seen tend to be like, I don't know, more comedies. And
like they have to overcompensate with their facial expressions because
they're very, very dramatic,
dramatic, or a lot of hand movements or,
theatrical.
Yes, very theatrical.
This, it could have, if it had sound,
would have been.
It would have been just a normal movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
so we'll give the synopsis. We need to talk about David Holm.
David Holm is the worst.
Is a piece of work. This guy.
He's a piece of shit.
So a little bit. So the film starts not with David Holm, but with Sister Edith.
Yes.
Who is a Salvation Army nurse.
Yeah.
Or nun.
Did we decide that Salvation Army people were like volunteer nuns? And at least in this film, that's what they seem like. She was called Sister Edith, and she worked for the Salvation Army, and they took in like indigent people. So it's also religious. So
have been a nun.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know.
Well, if she has a title, like sister.
Yeah, but maybe that's a Salvation Army title.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, she was. Well, we could talk about her love, her status of being in love. But anyway, Sister Edith is on her deathbed. She has tuberculosis.
Galloping consumption.
Not just normal consumption.
In Swedish, it's called lung inflammation. All one word.
Lung inflammation. So she is on her deathbed, and she has a fellow sister there with her, Sister Marie.
Yeah.
And then her mother also, I think, was there.
Yep.
And on her deathbed, she tells the people in the room, I need David Holm right now.
David Holm. Bring me David Holm.
Somebody needs to bring me David Holm stat.
Get his ass in here.
Wherever he is, I don't care. Go find him.
Go get him.
And everyone's like, oh, you don't want David Holm here. And she's like, no, I want David Holm here. Yep. And 90% of the time, whenever people talk about David Holm, They have to use his full name.
Full name.
Not no David, no Dave,
Mr. Home.
Mr. Home, David Home.
That drunk asshole.
It was like 100% of the time, wasn't it?
No, some people called him David a few
His
times.
wife called him David.
His
Oh,
wife
yeah,
called him
no,
David.
you're right. Yep.
So they're like, all right, let's go find David Home. So the search is on. So Sister Maria is looking for David Home. It looks like there was a cop or some sort of
Other guy.
official also on the hunt. And they find David Home in a graveyard drinking with two other guys.
Yep.
And they tell him, hey, before they actually find him, they cut to David Home in the cemetery with these two guys.
So you see what he's up to.
They're getting drunk. And
it's New Year's Eve.
It's New Year's Eve. It's close to midnight. And David Home tells them this story about the Phantom Carriage.
No, he
Or do
tells
they
them the
start
story
with
about George, who
So-
tells the story.
Right. So George was a friend of theirs who they were all together. And George was always happy, except on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, he was always in a mood. And at one point, David Home and George and some other guys are in either a hotel room or they're in
playing
some
a
sort of
card
room. They're
game.
playing cards. They get into a fight. David Home and the other guys get into a fight. It's unclear why they were fighting because, again, this is one of those scenes without dialogue. Maybe he was accusing them of being a cheat.
Of course. They're playing cards. They're drunk.
Drunk and disorderly.
Yeah.
So they're fighting, and George freaks out, and
Yeah.
he breaks up the fight, and he's like, hey, guys, you can't be doing this on New Year's Eve because there's a legend of the Phantom Carriage. So this Phantom Carriage goes around collecting souls.
That die.
Well, yes.
Well, he's not just collecting them.
No,
They die.
They die. He is an agent of death.
Yes.
He's not death himself, but
Death's servant.
Death's servant drives this carriage, and there's a really cool little montage of the carriage
Yeah.
picking up souls, and it is mostly double exposures, but it's still neat.
cool.
Where
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
will die, this ghostly carriage comes up, he lifts them out of their body, throws them in the carriage,
Yeah.
and takes them away.
Yeah.
And George's concern is the way that the driver is picked for this carriage. The carriage is always the same, but the driver is not. So whoever is last to die on New Year's Eve basically takes over as the driver for 1 year.
Which seems like the film tells you it's like an eternity.
Yeah, every day is 100 years.
Right.
Feels like yeah.
Because you're collecting that's a lot of souls
Yeah.
you're collecting constantly.
It just sucks.
And so George is like, I don't want to do that. So you don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
let's not
Stop fooling around.
stop doing this on New Year's Eve, guys. Come
Yeah.
on.
Except what happens to poor George?
So George dies
On.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
The prior year.
Yeah.
So the officials, the cop or whoever was looking for David Home finds him in the cemetery and says, hey, Sister Edith's looking for you. George is like, or not George, David Home is like, no, I want none of this. Leave me alone.
I'm busy.
And so the cop's like, all right. The other two guys are with him, though. Are like, hey, Sister Edith says she wants to see you. You need to go see her. And George's like, no, I don't want to go. There's a scuffle because they try to force David Home to go see her.
Yeah.
One of them ends up hitting David Home over the head with a wine bottle or some sort of liquor bottle and kills him.
Instant death.
They both scatter because they're like, oh crap, we just killed the dude. And the carriage comes up, and who's driving the carriage but George?
The guy who died last New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Who was terrified
That this would happen.
and it did.
He kind of manifested it a little bit.
Yep, he did. He did.
So he sees that it's David Home. David Home sees that it's George, and George feels bad because George blames himself for David Holm being in this situation.
Lifestyle.
Corrupted him.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we start getting flashbacks at this point. So first flashback we get is David Holm living a wonderful life. He lived with his wife and 2 kids and brother.
No, I don't think that was a flashback.
That wasn't a flashback. I think that was a vision of what could have been.
Because George says to David Holm, you know, if you'd stop dicking around and drinking and boozing and running around, you could have a really nice life with your wife and your daughters and your brother.
See, I took that as that was David Holm's life before George corrupted him.
You could have. I think it's open to interpretation. So I could see it
because
either way.
The brother also kind of the brother also was corrupted. So it wasn't just David Holm.
So there's this picture, this image of this happy family, but then it fades out. They're in a field and they're having a picnic.
Yep.
But then it fades out and there's David Holm with his drinking buddies,
George and
boozing it up.
And there's a distinct, so first of all, not to jump down this path too far, but the film is visually striking. They did an amazing job with the transfer.
They did. It looks really good.
And the way that you have a true depth of field. Everything feels like it has depth to it, despite being this 103-year-old film, right?
Yeah.
But it uses different color tones, and there's a lot of sepia and blue. But this scene that we're talking about was. I can't think of another part of the film that used the same color tone as this, making that segment kind of distinct from the others.
I mean, maybe they also said that they had different film transfers for different sections of the movie.
Right. That was what they did to establish a reference color palette. And then they were able to kind of normalize everything. But I feel like that was purposeful. Using that color in that scene, which is what kind of reinforces my belief that was a picture of what could have been. But ultimately, it doesn't matter.
It either was or could have been, but he threw it all away.
Yeah.
Yes. So the screen wipes from him living happily with his wife and kids and brother to now they're all drinking. Him and his brother and George are all drinking. David Holm ends up going to jail. So they show him in a Swedish jail.
Which is very nice.
Yeah, it seems nice for
jail.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
And he is getting released. It's they don't really go into how long he's been in there, but before he is released, the warden or whoever says, "Hey, before you go, you need to see something." They take him a few cells down, and his brother is there. And the warden tells him, "Hey, when your brother was drunk, he killed a dude." And I didn't know this was an option in prison, but he said, "You know what? You should probably serve your brother's sentence because you were the one that got him into
led him into this life."
David Holm does not take the warden up on this offer and basically says, "Oh, well, this is terrible. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm not going to come back in here. Sorry, brother, but I'm not coming back here.
Yeah.
I'm going to improve." So David Holm goes home only to find his family is gone.
Yeah, his wife took off.
While he was in prison, his wife and kids are gone. The people that are in the building tell him as much, and then they're laughing at him and his situation, which doesn't help his mood necessarily.
No. Did we agree on how long we thought he was in prison for?
I think he was not. I think he was in there overnight. I think the warden says to him, "You were drunk and disorderly, but you need to shape up." But I think he was on a drinking binge before that and didn't come home for days. And so his wife was like, "I'm done with this."
Right.
Did he have a mustache in prison?
No.
Did he have a mustache when he arrived back home?
No.
You sure?
Yes. I am sure because I noticed that.
Okay.
Sometimes he has a mustache.
That would have been a good gauge as to how long he was in there.
Exactly.
How long
Yeah.
does it take to grow a mustache
Right.
at that
No,
length?
he did not have a mustache or anything.
Okay. All right.
So at this point, he is
He's pissed.
he is mad,
And he's blamed his wife for this.
He's blaming his wife,
Yeah.
like, she didn't even give me a shot. She's
She
a coward.
snuck away.
She snuck away in the night with the kids.
Yeah.
She just waits until I find her. So then we find out how he encountered Sister Edith.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up at a Salvation Army on New Year's Eve, I believe.
Yeah, he goes on a quest
It's
to
a recurring.
find his wife.
New Year's Eve is like a recurring thing.
Yes.
So he shows up on New Year's Eve to Salvation Army. It's late at night, and it's Sister Edith and Sister Marie.
And it seems like they just opened the Salvation Army
Well, they
station.
did. They said that.
Yeah.
He was the first person that God brought to them.
Right. So excited.
Well,
And
Sister
speaking
Edith
of
was
God
excited.
and sister, they are not nuns. I
No.
did some
Okay.
some looking, and they use titles like brother and sister in that organization
Mm-hmm.
to evoke feelings of equality and community.
Okay.
So that no one,
It's the Salvation
no
Army
one was above
Oh, I get you.
another.
Okay.
They're considered equals. And even though it had kind of a military organizational model
Yeah.
and, elements of Christian ministry,
Yeah.
they never employed nuns.
They were volunteer nuns.
They were just volunteers. Yeah.
Right, right. I get it.
I didn't
Nurse.
realize Salvation Army had been around that long, but I guess the late
Yes.
1800s.
Yes.
Yep.
So David Holmes shows up at the Salvation Army. Sister Edith is immediately sort of
Drawn to him.
and wanting to help him. And I think she has sort of a savior complex a little bit, like she wants to save him.
Do you think she was new to the Salvation Army? Like she joined up when this new place was starting, and she felt like she needed to commit to a
Like it's her calling.
She
Yeah,
seemed
yeah.
like an overachiever.
right.
It's like, calm down.
Because Sister Marie seemed a bit more jaded.
She was jaded.
Like, come on,
She's
calm
like,
down.
don't give this guy the time of day.
Like she's been around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like she looks at him and she's like, "You're not going to do
Yeah,
anything."
he's
with this guy."
trouble.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I can save him.
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for.
Yep.
So he ends up just wanting to sleep there. While he's sleeping, Sister Edith decides to do a nice thing and mend his coat.
She stays up all night.
She stays up all night to mend his coat because he's got a homeless guy coat.
Yeah.
There are holes in it. The
Gross.
pockets are hanging off. Like it's not. It's seen better days. This coat. He wakes up, goes to put his coat on, and he notices like this has been patched. Somebody's worked on this coat. So he's sitting down at their table and he says, "Hey, can you get the person that did this?" So Sister Marie says, "Oh yeah, here I'll go get her." She goes in. Sister Edith comes out,
all excited.
like, "Oh my God, I did it! I got
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
He's going to appreciate it."
Yep.
And it looked like I thought that's where it was going.
Oh, he fakes you out.
Yeah.
But no,
No.
as soon as she comes in the room and expresses excitement that she might have made an impact on his life, he rips everything that
He's such a jerk.
she did, everything
Rips
she
all
patched.
the patches and stitching off.
He rips everything off and he says, "I liked the coat like this." At that point, she asks him to come back the following New Year's Eve because she wants to see
She prayed.
how he's doing.
She prayed overnight that this lodger person would have a good year or something like that. She's like, "Please come back to me so I know that my prayers have been answered."
Right.
And the whole time he's there, he's like coughing in her face.
Yes, and it is mentioned that because he has tuberculosis also.
Right.
She got it from him.
Yeah.
Because when she's handling his coat, Sister Marie is like, "Hey, you don't know what kind of germs this guy has.
Right.
Like, you shouldn't be handling his stuff."
And their oven wasn't set up
Their
yet.
Their
sanitizing oven.
Yeah.
And she got consumption from him because he had consumption.
Yeah.
And it is mentioned that he intentionally coughs in people's face to give them consumption.
Yeah, because he doesn't give a shit.
He
'Cause
gives
he's David
zero
Holm.
fucks. Zero.
I apologize to anyone
David
who's
Holm.
really named David Holm. That is unfortunate because you're forever associated with being a douchebag.
David Holm and the
in my
Honey
mind.
Badger. They don't care.
They don't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck. So
It's like a kid's book. David Holm and the Honey Badger.
So George, at that point, they go back to George and David Holm talking at the cemetery, and George is like, "Hey, you told Sister Marie Sister Edith that you're going to be back there next New Year's Eve. I'm bringing you over there." Then we have another flashback where David, it was in a bar, and Edith comes in because she and Sister Marie were giving out flyers for a Salvation Army rally, and she runs into David Holm. She finds him trying to get this straight-laced guy to drink, and she basically is like, "Hey, like don't do that. Don't corrupt this guy."
And before this moment, it flashes back to her on her deathbed again. And she's like, "I need you to get David home. I need you to get the man I love," which is the first time this is her feelings that she loves David Holm are revealed. And all three of us, I think, were like, "What?"
Well,
but
yeah, I think it's open to interpretation what love means in this sense. Like at that moment, to me, it seemed like she loved him as,
like a romantic
love. But as the movie progresses, and you immediately question it, right? But then as the movie progresses, you start to question that word love.
I do not think it means
what you think it means. And it's more like, I think she was invested.
I care about him.
In him.
Like I know there's good in him. I need to bring it out.
Yeah, like love like the way Jesus loves people.
Like philos, like brotherly love?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Which I think is there's things that lend credence to that in this very scene. Because during this scene, so he's in this bar, he's trying to corrupt this other guy. Edith's like, "No, go home with your wife." Because at one point, like, that guy's wife comes in.
Yeah.
And David Holm is like, "Don't go with your wife."
He's such a jerk.
Like, why just stay drinking with us?
Yeah.
And Sister Edith basically goes over and is like, "No, you
convinces him.
Go home with your wife.
Yeah, don't do this.
Don't stay here with him." And then there's
another young man.
There's another young man there that
even younger.
David Holm is trying to get to drink. He's just a bad influence.
He wants drinking buddies.
Well, misery loves company, right? I mean, he's trying to drag everyone down with him.
So they end up giving this younger man a flyer for the rally,
like a Salvation Army rally,
and they end up going to the rally.
And David Holm says, "Oh, you're going to go to this stupid thing? Well, I'm going to go and laugh in your face."
Right.
So and he does.
So he shows up. Yeah.
He shows up at the rally, and it seemed like one of those very much like, "Oh, we're gonna save your soul."
Yeah. It's
type of things.
Salvation Army rally.
And so it looked like they got through to the young man.
Yeah.
The young man bought what they were selling. David Holm is laughing, and people at the rally are getting annoyed with him because he's like standing up and just making a mockery of it. But also at the rally is David Holm's wife that he's been looking for. He does not see her. He doesn't see her at the time. So he ends up leaving.
Well, before that, he talks to Sister Edith. And she's like, "Please," he's like, "I got to get out of here. I'm on a quest." And she's like, "No, stay. You got to see my you promised me you would come back to me on New Year's Eve. You need to stick around so I can see the promise fulfilled." And he's like, "Yeah, I'd do that, but I have my own quest and I'm looking for someone." And she says, "Who?" And he's like, "I can't. You'll know when I find her." So then he leaves, and the wife comes forward to Sister Edith and said, "He's looking for me."
Right. I'm his wife. And now to Matt's point, like if Edith were romantically in love with David Holm, I think she would have had a different reaction. But her her reaction here is like, oh my God, I need to get you two back together.
Right.
Like, you were the one, like, you'll be able to get through to him if I can get you two to reconcile.
Yeah, without missing a beat. It's like, oh, that was my quest all along, was to find an anchor for him so that he would have some motivation to improve.
Right.
As opposed to, oh no, here's this guy's wife. I don't have a future with him.
I'm threatened. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
So that now Edith's like, this is what we got to do. We got to get these crazy kids back together.
Which is a terrible idea.
Right. So
the wife's like, I don't know, and she's like, no,
trust me,
you need to do it.
I got this. So they send one guy after David Holm. It seems like they're like, we're not going to tell you where you're going, but you need to clean yourself up, and because he does clean himself up a bit, and they bring him to his wife. And Sister Edith's like, surprise.
Yep.
And it looks like they sort of reconcile.
Yeah. Sure. Kind of. David Holm, I don't know.
It's kind of neutral.
It's kind of an enigma. Yeah.
Right. So then it's not long before David Holm reverts back to his old habits, goes back to drinking and being a ne'er-do-well. And one night he comes home drunk, and he goes over to the kids.
Throws a lit cigarette at his wife.
Throws a lit cigarette at his wife. Goes over to the kids and is like leaning right over them. He flicks one of them in the nose, and they're sleeping. And the wife is like, "Hey, how about not giving our kids tuberculosis? That would be cool." And at that point, he gets a handkerchief and he coughs in it and he throws it in his wife's face.
Yeah, he's a gem.
And then he's like, I'm going to the kitchen.
Yep.
So he goes into the kitchen and he's looking through the various pots and drawers. And I'm not sure what exactly he's doing in the kitchen, but the wife realizes he hasn't changed. And now he's a danger to the kids. Like he's going to be trouble. So she locks him in the kitchen because she's like, we're leaving again.
Yeah.
So she wakes the kids up. She's getting them all, getting their coats on and everything. And he realizes I'm locked in the kitchen, and he's obviously not too thrilled about this. So he grabs an axe, and this is the scene that Stanley Kubrick poached from. He proceeds to take an axe to the kitchen door to get into the other room.
He has the original "Here's Johnny" moment.
Yeah, and you know, as soon as that scene started, as soon as he's like kind of getting agitated at the door, I knew
I did too.
that was the scene, and it made me look deeper into the film. And I think a lot of Jack Torrance's character in The Shining can come from, I mean, obviously the book as well, but the way that he behaves is reminiscent of David Holm, and the motivation. He was, you know, a drinker, a drunk, got violent with his wife and kids when he did so. And
the way that Jack Torrance acts in Kubrick's version of The Shining is one of the things that King hated about Kubrick's adaptation, because he always felt that in the book Jack was a good man.
He's more sympathetic.
That was corrupted by the hotel versus Jack in Kubrick's version always kind of had an edge to him. Like he
gave into his dark side.
Which made him open to corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I felt that too. I mean, I was way more familiar with the film before I read the book, and I enjoyed the book very much, and it tells a similar story. But I think, I don't know, I've always cared for the movie more and the way that Jack's character develops through there. But anyway, I thought the parallels, I mean, aside from the...
It was like completely...
I mean, even the way that they would, did the cinematography for that whole scene, not just the concept, but, you know...
The actual
It's
shot.
interesting. If you're a fan of The Shining and you can find this film, watch it even just for that sequence.
Yep. It's kind of
see
cool
where
to be like,
Because you got the shot of him on one side of the door hitting it with the axe, then it cuts to the other side where you can see the blade coming through.
Yep.
Yeah. That was cool.
The wife ends up fainting.
Lame.
And then they show him giving her water.
But then being like, you can't escape me.
Right. It's like, oh, wow.
Jesus.
Did her fainting really get to him and make him feel bad?
No.
He gave her water and he's just like, you didn't think you were going to get out that easy again, do you?
Well, but you could see his true, when she was unconscious, you could see that he had a true sense of concern.
Yeah, because he immediately went and got her water.
For her. But as soon as he knew that physically she was all right, he's not going to, show that side of him. He's just boom, right back to it. So he has something at his core, which is what Sister Eat It must have seen and latched onto and tried to, bring to the surface.
Yep.
So we then cut back to George and David Holm in Sister Edith's room. So George brings David Holm to Edith's room, and Sister Edith can see George, like the Reaper George, as soon as he comes in. She doesn't see David Holm, but she's basically like, she thinks death has come for her. She's begging.
She's like, wait,
George, like, please don't take me. I'm waiting. I need to talk to David Holm before I die. And George tells her, like, he's past the point where you can talk to him. Like, he's not here anymore.
Why? I mean, this isn't relevant that relevant, but why do you think she can't see him and can only see George?
She sees him eventually.
She does. I think because he has this spectral bond. George hogties him with invisible rope.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to ask. Do you think it's because he's been bound?
I think that's,
Or he's also
what you're supposed to infer.
Like,
I mean,
she just can't see him. Yeah, and he's kind of immobile. So he's in the room.
Yeah.
But he's tied up on the ground.
Edith is focused on George and doesn't see David Holm.
Right. No, I just didn't know if there was any, I
don't think so.
Spooky reason why she couldn't see him.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And again, there's this running theme of people feeling responsible for the actions of other people, right?
Yeah.
Or being made to feel responsible. Yeah.
I mean, it starts with the George feeling responsible for what happened to David Holm. You've got the warden trying to make David Holm feel responsible for what his brother did.
No. Yeah.
And now Sister Edith at this point says, it's my fault. I brought him and his wife together. This never would have happened if I hadn't brought them back together.
She ends up finding out that this is still not working out. David Holm's being abusive, and she feels really bad about it. And wants to try to get him to mend his ways. She wants to give it one more college try, which is the true reason that you find out why she wants to see him. She's like, I can't face God unless I resolve this, unless I try one more time.
Like, this was my fault.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, David Holm hears this, and now it's starting to get to him. Finally, he's just like, oh my God, this lady really did care about me.
Yeah.
And what happened to me. And so he breaks his spectral bonds. He crawls over to the bed. He grabs her hand, and he kisses her hands. And Edith can see him at this point.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost like she has closure.
Yeah.
At that point, that he's contrite about this. He regrets the situation.
So she can be absolved.
And she could die in peace, basically, at this point. Yeah. Because they also talk about how there's this reference to, like, your soul should be mature before it's reaped, or like you should be fulfilled in life.
Yeah.
Before you die.
Yeah, you need to be a mature, good person. I think that's what they mean by your soul should be mature, is that you know right from wrong, you know what's morally correct, and you need to get your heart right before you die.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting is when this all happens and Edith feels like she's had absolution from David Holm. David Holm, I think he's like, all right, so we're going to take her with us. And George says, no, she has another ride or
Right.
something
Others
like that.
are going to come for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, later.
Which was interesting.
You never see, so like one of the special effects that they did with the double exposures is you see these people's souls leave their body.
Yeah.
It's like a ghostly image of themselves, coming
Right.
up out of their bodies, but that never happens for her.
No, she stays there
Yeah.
until her next ride comes.
And
I would
yeah,
assume
we
she's
never end up
going
seeing
straight
that.
to heaven. She seems very saintly. And
But does that imply that if the carriage comes for you, that you're not?
yeah, you're in limbo or you got shit to work out. You're flawed. Because a lot of these, like one guy committed suicide.
Yeah.
But the other guy drowned.
The other guy drowned. You're right. Not everybody, But I don't know. I get that. Or Edith was so great that she gets to go, collect $200.
But that's true because
Yeah.
we do see the other people, like as the carriage is introduced and the carriage driver, we see him go and get these people from various backgrounds and dying in different ways.
Right.
You don't know the content of their character necessarily.
That's
No.
true. No, not at all. It's very brief. You just see them in different scenarios,
Right.
but the carriage comes for them all. But then
She gets VIP treatment.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
I think she
Exactly.
does.
Like,
I think she does. She's very saintly.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. I mean, so different death comes.
Yeah.
Less scary. It comes in a sob.
Okay.
The Phantom sob.
With ABBA playing on the
Yep.
radio, and their
Take a
Swedish
chance
fish
on me.
Yeah.
in the
It's
cup
like, oh,
holders,
here
and
comes my
Swedish
ride.
meatballs, and the
You go to your
the
IKEA
center
furnished
console.
heavenly apartment.
Ghostly Swedish chef is driving. Burger, burger, burger.
Swedish bikini team is there at the
Yep.
gates.
Yep.
Welcome.
Yep. That's how I want to go. In the Phantom sob.
That sounds awesome.
So this starts.
It's
So
Swedish Valhalla.
It is nice.
so David Holm, he's starting to. They're starting to chip away at
The
him.
cracks are appearing.
So then we flash to David Holm's wife. So George brings David Holm to.
David Holm thinks now he's going to take over as the carriageman, and they're driving in the carriage, and George stops at David Holm's house.
Yes.
And
So-
David Holm's like, why are we stopping here?
So they go into the house, and David Holm's wife is in there. The kids are in bed, and David Holm's wife is basically like, I can't do this anymore.
Utterly despondent.
I'm worried about the kids. I don't want them to be alone. So I'm just gonna poison our drink and
Murder, suicide.
kill. We're gonna kill us all. We're all gonna die.
We're all going to die.
David Holm is freaking out at this point.
He
like,
is.
oh my God, like you can't let her do this. And he prays. He prays to God. He said, God, please, you can make me suffer for eternity.
Yep.
I'll do whatever you want, but please don't let my kids
These
die.
three
Don't let
innocent
these three
people-
people die
yeah.
for things that I've done.
He's turned the corner.
Yes. Seen the light.
At that point, George says, I no longer have to grieve for you. And prisoner, return to thy prison.
Captive, return to
captive,
thy
return
prison.
to thy prison. And David Holmes' soul goes back into his body, and he is alive again.
He has risen.
All right. We have to talk about this for a second because under what authority is George, as the carriage driver, as the reaper, whose job it is to collect souls, able to release
Well, I think
his soul?
I think that George is the servant of death, and it would logically assume that death is the servant of God.
Sure.
So when David Holm made his appeal to God, maybe God shouted down the chain, like, let him go. Let him go back. He's redeemed himself. He needed redemption. This is the redemption story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very reminiscent of A Christmas Carol.
Super,
Where
yeah.
you're visited by this ghost.
Spirit.
And you're brought to see,
The
what could have
consequences.
been and what is happening. And
Yeah, very much.
the future. But I just thought it was real weird that was the direction that the film went where he's like, okay, you're remorseful. You finally realize in death the consequences of your actions. So they bring him back to life.
Yeah, so that he can live a good life now.
Yeah, I don't know.
He got a second chance.
I have an issue with the mechanics of it.
It definitely wasn't George, because at one point George says, like,
do anything,
I don't
yeah.
have agency over the living. Like,
Yeah.
I can't affect you. So, I mean,
I think it was a message from higher up.
right. It was like the governor, like the governor calling in the stay of execution.
Yeah, and be like, all right, you can go.
And then I don't know, that line that he says. Where
Right,
he's
he
like,
seems to have that power.
Right, exactly.
Because he used that line before.
He did. And
when David Holm didn't want to go with him initially.
Right,
He's like, I'm not dead.
He tried to hide back in his body.
That was
And then
great.
George is like, prisoner, come forth from your prison.
Yeah.
Yes. And then he commits him back to his prison, which is his body.
Yep.
But that gives him authority.
No, he gets his authority from somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's
All right.
temporary.
No, he's just a middleman.
Yeah,
He's a
he
middleman.
is. He
This
is
is
middleman. You don't look too far into it.
No, because then the other point is, well, so is George stuck driving the carriage for another
I
year,
hope not.
or does he take
gets the next-
whoever died right
Yeah.
before David Holm? I don't know,
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
because that would suck if he got stuck driving for another year.
What? No.
So David wakes up, and then he said, "Oh shit, my wife's still going to kill herself and our kids." So
Yeah.
he
Right.
hauls ass down, running with his recently dead legs.
Yep. He's fine.
And he gets to her in time, and he basically tells her, like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like he's basically begging her for forgiveness, and,
Yeah.
and she's like, "I don't believe you.
You're
because
lying.
You came after us with an axe."
Yeah.
He starts crying.
That's all it takes.
And
Cry
then
a little.
she sees him crying, and then she starts crying, and at that point she says, "The fact that you're crying makes me feel like you're sincere about this."
But she still said she didn't believe him, even though he was crying.
Yeah, she's like, it's going to take some time for me to believe
It's
you,
gonna take me a
which is
bit,
good. That's
but-
realistic.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's the movie.
That's it.
Not before it called us a slut, though.
Oh, that was the best part. is he basically, I think David Holm says, please let me be mature before I'm
My
raped.
soul be mature, yeah.
He's
which is
basically saying, I'm really good. Like, I don't take me until like I've been able to reform myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a very hopeful, happy thing, and then the screen goes black, and on the screen it just says "slut," which is I believe Swedish for the end. Is probably
It's just like a
pronounced
French
slut.
film when it's, fini.
But obviously that word has a different
Slut.
meaning in the United States. So
like, hey,
it's like, what? Who? David Holm?
David Holm at his final.
Did you just
revenge.
call your wife that?
Slut?
Because it was so unexpected and out of nowhere.
great.
Just
We
slut.
just all busted out laughing.
It was great.
But that, it was. I dug it.
I thought it was really good. I really
dug
did.
That was interesting.
And I can understand how this film is held in such high regard.
And if you thought we said David Holm a lot,
That's
we're
because we're
in line
channeling-
with how many times it gets mentioned.
Oh, my
first
God.
and last in the film.
David Holm.
Yes. David
Don't
Holm.
be a David Holm.
Don't be a David Holm.
I'm
Holm.
using that now. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Guy's
like,
such a David Holm.
Debbie Downer, David
Yeah,
Holm,
David Holm. Don't be a David Holm.
Eddie Haskell.
Eddie Haskell, yeah.
Rachel, what would you rate this?
I really liked it. I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's an excellent, just the fact that it's a silent film. It's from a certain era. It's skillfully done. It resonated with me. I'm going to rate it really high. It's going to get 4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
David Holmes.
4.5.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was very good.
Nice. Yeah. No, I'd give it a solid 4 streets.
Yeah, and it's an excellent example of, I think it's peak silent film.
Oh, just like the the color, the fact that, it's night, there's a blue tint. In their inside, it's a yellow tint.
Yeah,
The
like
changes
the lamp,
in the
yeah.
size of the lens based on what they're focusing on. It's just, I know this isn't the only silent film to do stuff like that, but
This does it well.
it's super cool.
It's a good story. It's got a good moral to it, I think. Straight up. It's like, don't be an asshole. Don't.
The score was really good.
It was.
We chose the score from the Swedish composer.
Yeah. It was very good.
And it was cool. Like the scene that really struck me with the score is when David Holm dies, and he basically sits up from his body, and the carriage comes.
Yeah.
Because the noise, like they make this dissonant noise with I assume a violin, and David Holmes' character holds his ears. He's like,
because
he can hear the carriage coming, and they the way they make the score, it's like he's reacting.
Well, the score does what it's supposed to.
He's
It puts you
reacting
on
to
edge,
the score. Like it makes it seem like he's reacting
Or
to the score.
it's putting the audience in his shoes.
Yes.
Right.
So that you're also feeling
Yep.
as uncomfortable.
It was cool.
Yeah. It was really
It
good.
was reminiscent. That particular scene that you're talking about was reminiscent of like a Penderecki kind of, that dissonant string section.
Unnerving.
Yeah.
Very unnerving.
Upsetting.
Like fingers on chalkboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, Matt, you're familiar with one of the musicians
Well,
that did the alternate score.
So the alternate score, it was done by two people. I don't know who the other person is, but KTL is who's listed as the band or whatever,
Artists.
the artist that did this other alternate score. And I was looking in the menu on the DVD, and it said Stephen O'Malley was one of the people, and I was like, I know who that is, and yeah, he was one of the principal people involved in Sun, the band, SUNN,
Double N.
which was
What kind of music do they do?
a tribute to Sun amplifiers. And what kind of music? Sun.
Okay.
They do their own thing. If you like heavy, drony
Yeah.
guitar, drumlet, like no drums.
Our son likes it.
Yeah.
SON.
Or SON,
Likes
son, like
SUNN. Son.
It's very different because we went back afterward and picked some scenes, and it's a very, almost like an industrial sounding score.
Yeah, it's more ominous tones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like dark ambient.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting to watch the film again with that alternate score to see how the feel of the film changes. But I enjoyed the score that we chose.
I thought the score, the traditional score, is more dynamic from what we heard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it suits it better, but that doesn't mean, it's better overall. I don't know, whatever. I mean, we only got clips of
We didn't even.
of the other one, but it's cool that they did these alternate scores.
It is.
For it, yeah.
Would your moms like it?
I'd say no.
I don't know what my mom would think of a silent movie. I mean, she was probably alive when they had them.
She was not.
No, she wasn't.
Stop that. Insult your mother. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it.
What I will say is if you can get your hands on the Criterion release and can watch it on a reasonably good television,
It looks good.
do that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I was right from the beginning. I was very impressed with the way that it looked and the color tones and everything. It's very striking. If you watch it on YouTube on your phone, it's not going to be the same thing.
Don't watch movies on your phone.
David Lynch
did
said
like
David
that.
Lynch will come back and haunt you.
I agree with him.
But you could see all of the scratches, and like there were certain scenes where like it looked like there was a hair like on
yeah.
But it's like that kind of. I mean, it's over 100 years old. It's just
amazing.
You're watching history. You know,
I love that. I do love that.
But it has a certain visual weight or feel to it that is just different from other older films.
I can see
I don't
that.
I don't know how to describe
It has,
it.
like you said, it has a depth.
Yeah.
To it.
Oh, and all of the people that are in this movie,
Dead.
super dead.
Dead. Beyond dead.
Mega dead.
Mega dead. Yep.
Even if they were born when this movie was released,
They're dead.
They're dead.
They're totally dead. Like
Yeah.
his kids in this movie,
I know.
dead.
Dead. Yep. For sure. It's kind of weird.
But that was our first silent movie, guys.
It was a good pick, Carl.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
I think it fit the theme
It
and the
totally
shake-up.
did.
Yep.
It totally did.
Yep,
it was silent, and it was the unseen.
Yeah.
But you could kind of see it because it was ghostly.
Yes.
I liked it. It was very good.
Seen by a select few.
Yes.
So we do have some business. We've got two things we need to do.
Yeah.
We need to spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, no, we need to ask our robot overlords
Yes. We need the AI
for
machine.
the next theme. And we are going to spin the wheel
shake-up
for
wheel.
what Matt's shakeup will be.
Right.
For said next theme.
Are you ready to beseech the robots?
Okay, well, yes, let me get our little console here ready and
Okay.
let me see if I can figure out how to do this. All right, so we are getting the new theme
Yes.
From AI.
our
New
robot overlords. Ready? Here
Yeah.
we go. Let's see how this works.
Oh, look out.
Is it coming? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Is it a ticker tape?
Past lives.
Past
Ooh.
lives.
Does the robot overlords give us any...
Well, I don't know, because the robot overlord who made this chart didn't put any column or row headings or labels or links to the actual descriptions.
No.
Like any normal person would. So I don't know, but maybe the person responsible, Rachel, can tell me.
Past lives?
What past lives?
It's in here somewhere. Hold on.
Yeah.
I got it.
Hyperlinks are a thing.
Got it.
Films that deal with reincarnation, past experiences, or characters who must confront their past to move forward.
There you go.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's pretty broad. You got a good.
Now,
Pretty broad, a lot of different options. But now,
You need your shake up. Spin the
if
wheel.
that wasn't enough.
Yes. We have another sound.
So my shake up here. All right,
you.
now I got to spin this wheel.
Spin the wheel.
All right, here we go. All right.
did you stretch first?
The wheel is spinning. No, I'm good. No,
Okay,
no,
Are you limber?
It is.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So, documentary or mockumentary?
Documentary.
We've never watched a documentary.
No.
So, past lives.
Oh, you could watch What We Do in the Shadows. That's a mockumentary.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, and they are trying to escape.
I know.
Or...
Past lives.
It is a.
Just saying.
It is an option, and the movie is better than the show, according to me.
According to me.
Okay. So that should
You
be.
can work with that.
That should be interesting. Yeah, I can work with
I think so.
anything. I just,
Past
gotta
lives.
find one that conforms to that and is available somewhere in some fashion.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so I got my work cut
Great.
out for me.
Matt's got some homework.
For
Yep.
the next week.
Okay.
I'll do this on Monday night or Tuesday morning.
Great job.
Classic.
Yep.
Classic.
Classic
I work
Matt.
best under pressure.
You procrastinate.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Well, great job, everybody.
Yes.
That does it for another episode of the Movie Roulette Tuesday.
I felt like this episode's
podcast.
really long.
It is long.
It's officially our longest.
How
Is it
long
really?
is it?
Well, I mean, I haven't edited it yet or put
yeah.
it together or whatever,
Yeah.
but we're probably at like 110 minutes.
Oh, good Lord. We're
That's
sorry.
like as
everybody.
long as the
we
movie.
are feature length.
Oh, boy.
We are. We're not sorry.
I'm kind of sorry.
No.
That's a long episode.
You can split it into two. It's fine.
I blame David Lynch for dying.
Listen
blame
to it
Sweden.
at double speed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we can sound like chipmunks.
But listen to this part first and then go to the beginning and then listen to it at double speed.
Yeah.
Oh
Or
my
else you
God.
wouldn't know.
Right. Okay. Let's
But
go.
all right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we hope you tune in next week.
How do you say what's goodbye in Swedish?
Slut.
Slut. Don't call me a slut.
Sloot.
Slut.
All right.
Never mind.
Goodbye.
Slut.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
everybody.
Enjoy your Swedish crap.